it doesn't really matter what I think about forward-facing sonar. Who cares? Nobody really understands what's going to happen in the future with this, so no reason to give any long-term predictions. Let's just talk about what it's doing to tournament fishing as a whole. And this isn't going to be a negative video. I'm not going to go after the electronics companies. I'm not going to talk bad about the fishermen that are using it. It's within the rules, so you can't hate on it. They're doing what they have to do to win tournaments. But that's what it's doing to tournament fishing. It's a lot like when the Alabama rig came out. The best fishermen that were known for doing a bunch of things like cranking and flipping or fishing offshore ledges or being really patient or knowing how to fish a jig really good. All those things that we love about bass fishing kind of were thrown out the window because, one, if you wanted to win the tournament, you had to be throwing an Alabama rig. And two, most of the money was going to be won on an Alabama rig. You just couldn't compete with an Alabama rig with whatever other baits that you like to do. And I think that's the same thing that's happening with forward-facing sonar. Who cares about all these predictions that we may have? What it's doing is it's taking the art of fishing that we love to watch Greg Hackney and Jason Christie flip and throw a spinnerbait. We like to watch this guy punch mats and this guy go offshore and crank and this guy do that and that. It's not really going to be that way if this is what wins all the tournaments. So like when I think of specific instances, specific lakes where there's just one thing that seems to win for a long time, I think of Lake Guntersville, where the fishing was really good, but it didn't matter. You weren't going to win unless you were fishing a bridge. So when those really good fishermen went to the lake, they knew that it didn't matter what they did. They just had to go find the bridge that was going to be the one that won. Now, I'm not saying all the checks came off bridges, but there was a time where in the pre-spawn and even the summer months, the bridges were where every single tournament was won. It's not totally like that anymore, but there's just those certain instances. And why I'm bringing that whole point up is that if Panoptics is the only thing that's going to win the tournaments, everyone's got to do it. It makes you do that. So the art of all these other techniques, they get thrown out the window, like the same thing with the Alabama rig. Now, the difference between the two is obviously the money that's coming into the industry, the money that's coming into the tournament organizations, the money that's coming into the fishermen. The Alabama rig didn't have that behind it. There was no backing financially for the Alabama rig. But again, I'm not going after the electronics companies. AI is evolving, and we are living in an artificial intelligent world. So you can't bash the electronics companies for coming up with something amazing. Long term, who knows? Can't be good. I don't think it's going to be good. But again, nobody knows. So that's just my little idea on it. It's forcing all the fishermen to just do that. And when that happens, it doesn't make for the most exciting fishing tournament. We basically know what's going to happen in all these events. All the smallmouth fisheries for sure are going to have Panoptics involved. You can't compete. You can't cash a check. You can't win without it. And now we're seeing it on Lake Okeechobee, probably the most likely lake where something else could win. And I'm not saying the guy's going to win on it because he's having a tougher day today. But this was supposed to be the one where it wasn't going to be the way to win. And there you go. The guy catches 29 pounds doing it. So it's just like, are we ever going to see a tournament where Panoptics doesn't win and everything that you've learned in the last 50 years, Rick Clunn, you better learn Panoptics because that's the way if you ever want to win again.